In a world where emotions are often concealed behind masks and words, there exists a man whose thoughts incessantly return to one woman. Her image haunts him, her name echoes in his consciousness throughout the day. He may attempt to hide his feelings, perhaps even from himself, but his body, his gestures, and his very aura betray his true state. He is deeply and utterly infatuated. The irony lies in the fact that this woman, the object of his secret affections, is completely unaware of his feelings. The reason is that society has taught us to seek confirmation of feelings in words and promises, while true male attraction manifests in silent signs, in a code that only a few can decipher. Carl Jung, the eminent psychologist, once made a discovery that sheds light on this enigma. When a man genuinely loves a woman, his subconscious takes over, manifesting in involuntary signals that cannot be faked. Tragically, most women, around 93%, misinterpret these signs, mistaking sincere interest for a fleeting game, or worse, completely ignoring the man who is truly in love. They fail to recognize the hidden language of male desire, remaining oblivious to the deep feelings directed towards them. Surely everyone is familiar with that vague, intuitive feeling when a man's words about interest diverge from his actions, or conversely, when he does not express feelings openly, but an inner confidence suggests the existence of a deep connection. This is not a coincidence or a figment of the imagination, but a subconscious perception of signals that escape conscious analysis. This is not about seduction techniques or manipulative tricks, but about a deeper understanding of male psychology. When a man meets a woman who evokes not only physical attraction, but also a connection that transcends the rational, certain patterns emerge in his behavior. There is a secret language that manifests in gestures, glances, silence, and the overall attitude of a man when he experiences genuine emotional involvement. By learning to recognize these signals, one can confidently understand a man's true intentions and avoid deception and confusion. Often, women focus their searches on the wrong aspects, overlooking key moments. Instead of waiting for grand gestures, it is worth paying attention to minor details that can reveal the true essence of a man. According to Jung, within every member of the stronger sex lies a dormant archetype of the lover, a powerful force that can fundamentally change his behavior, often unconsciously. This is something authentic, not susceptible to imitation, an instinctive primal reaction rooted in the depths of the male subconscious. The information that is about to be shared has the potential to overturn perceptions of men. It will reveal truths that may have already been felt intuitively, but not fully understood. It is important to be vigilant, as these signals are subtle, yet unmistakable. A man may try to hide his feelings, rationalize them, but his body and actions will always reveal the truth. The difference between a man who experiences only physical attraction and one who is emotionally involved is colossal. The former disappears when difficulties arise, while the latter becomes even more reliable. One makes you doubt and worry, the other gives stability and confidence. One lives in the present moment, the other already sees a future together. These differences manifest through specific behavioral patterns that Jung identified in his studies of the human psyche. These behavior patterns will be revealed so that women no longer have to guess about men's true feelings. The revelations offered go beyond the usual self-development advice and popular discussions about relationships. It is about a deep penetration into male psychology, knowledge of which is available only to a select few. The question arises, are you ready for changes that can radically alter your personal life? Before revealing the secrets that will forever change your understanding of men, you are invited to perform a simple action. Leave a comment with the word perception. This is not just a formality, but a way to demonstrate a sincere interest in knowing the truth about male behavior. Writing this word activates the subconscious, preparing it to receive important information. It's like turning a key that opens doors to deep understanding. The knowledge ahead is too valuable to absorb without prior preparation. The word perception becomes the first step in unraveling the mysteries of the male mind, which were discovered by Carl Jung after years of research into the human psyche. Are you intrigued? Excellent. Now the secrets of the male subconscious will be revealed when genuine love for a woman blossoms in a man's heart. Prepare for revelations that could overturn established notions of relationships. Have you ever wondered why some women seem to attract male devotion like a magnet, while others are doomed to an endless series of fleeting connections? The secret lies not in physical appearance, nor in conscious words or actions. The answer lies much deeper, in the ability to recognize and respond to the subconscious signals that a man sends when his feelings reach true depth. Carl Jung, who dedicated decades to studying the human psyche, concluded that male behavior is governed by forces hidden beyond conscious control. According to Jung, there are universal patterns of behavior, which he called archetypes, primordial images inherited from humanity's collective past, shaping our feelings, thoughts, and actions. And one of the most powerful archetypes in the male consciousness is the lover archetype. When this archetype awakens in a man's subconscious, something extraordinary happens. The man experiences not just interest or attraction, but a deep connection on a level that transcends rationality. It is as if some inner force awakens, something ancient and powerful, transforming his behavior, even if he himself is not aware of what is happening. Modern society instills in men from a young age the idea of suppressing emotions. Common phrases instilled in boys from childhood, such as "men don't cry," "be strong," "don't show weakness," erect a barrier between their inner experiences and verbal expression. As a result, even when experiencing deep feelings, many men struggle to express their love in words. However, as Jung argued, the body never lies. While the mind is able to control speech, the subconscious manifests through physical and behavioral signals that are difficult to fake. The key to understanding lies in the silent language of the body and actions, which only a few women can correctly interpret. Consider the example of a man whose signals seem contradictory. He may express interest, but then disappear for several days, or avoid talking about feelings, but always be there in difficult times. Which of them really experiences deep emotions? Words can be misleading, but actions always tell the truth. There are biological and psychological justifications for this phenomenon. Modern research in the field of neurobiology confirms Jung's assumptions. When a man is sincerely in love, his brain releases a unique cocktail of neurotransmitters, such as dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. These substances have a direct impact on his behavior, forming patterns that he cannot always consciously control. Dopamine, a key neurotransmitter, plays a central role in the formation of feelings of reward and pleasure. When a man is deeply interested in a woman, his brain begins to associate her presence with the release of this neurotransmitter, which forms a strong need for her company, comparable to drug addiction. This process does not occur on a rational level, but is the result of a chemical reaction that subconsciously forces him to seek communication with her, even when other aspects of life require his attention. Oxytocin, often called the attachment hormone, is released during moments of physical and emotional intimacy. This hormone promotes the formation of a biochemical bond, causing the man to instinctively want to protect, care for, and maintain a connection with the woman. The manifestation of protective behavior in a man in love is not accidental, but rather a biological response to a deep emotional connection. However, how can you distinguish a man who is only experiencing physical attraction from one who is emotionally devoted? How do you separate those who say what a woman wants to hear from those who experience sincere feelings? Carl Jung proposed the concept of synchronicity, describing meaningful coincidences that seem interconnected but have no obvious cause and effect relationship. When a man is sincerely connected to a woman, synchronous events begin to occur. He calls at the moment she is thinking about him. They discover unexpected common interests and connections. Their life paths seem to align under the influence of some invisible force. Many women tend to ignore these subtle signs, focusing exclusively on obvious displays of affection. They expect loud declarations of love or public displays of affection, not noticing that a man's true devotion is manifested in small, daily actions, almost imperceptible decisions, and glances that last a little longer than usual. Imagine a situation. In a casual conversation with friends, you casually mention a book you read long ago, and then, a few weeks later, this same person suddenly brings up the topic of that very book. It's not just a coincidence, but a clear signal that your words have deeply resonated with him, that you hold a special place in his thoughts. Carl Jung would call this psychic presence, a phenomenon where someone constantly occupies our thoughts, even when they are not physically present. Unfortunately, many women make the common mistake of confusing fleeting sexual interest with a deep emotional connection. Physical attraction arises instantly, based on chemistry and external appeal. Emotional connection, on the other hand, forms gradually, layer by layer, manifesting in consistent patterns of behavior that often go unnoticed in the hustle and bustle of everyday life. A man may experience physical attraction to several women simultaneously, but when he becomes emotionally involved with one of them, his attention changes dramatically. He begins to see her not just as a source of physical pleasure, but as an integral part of his life, his plans for the future, and his own identity. This is a profound transformation that influences all his decisions, even those that at first glance seem unrelated to the relationship. Carl Jung, the eminent Swiss psychologist and philosopher, put forward the theory that in the depths of each person's subconscious lies an idealized image of a partner, anima for men and animus for women. Meeting a person who embodies this inner projection becomes a fateful event, causing a powerful resonance. The man feels a sense of wholeness, as if he has found a lost part of himself. This connection transcends physical attraction or social harmony, touching the deepest chords of the soul. Surprisingly, the depth of this connection is not always reflected in words. Often, men experience such strong feelings that verbal expression seems inadequate to them. Then actions, gestures, and non-verbal signals come into play, speaking directly to the subconscious. A legitimate question arises: how to recognize these manifestations of genuine emotional involvement? What specific actions does a man in love take, besides words? Jung's research revealed a certain pattern of behavior, universal across cultures and eras, rooted in the collective male unconscious. These signs cannot be imitated, as they come from the depths of the psyche. They can be divided into three main categories, which will be discussed later. These actions indicate not just fleeting infatuation or interest, but a deep emotional connection, capable of developing and deepening over time. It is noteworthy that many men are unaware of these behavioral manifestations. They act under the influence of internal forces that they themselves do not fully understand. It seems that something inside them prompts them to express themselves in a certain way when they meet that special woman who awakens the archetype of the lover in them. The culminating moment of the long-awaited revelation arrives. Now, irrefutable signs of a man's true love will be presented based on Carl Jung's in-depth research into the mysteries of the male subconscious. This is not about ostentatious behavior that can be easily imitated, but about genuine expressions of feelings that cannot be hidden. These are involuntary reactions coming from the depths of the subconscious, revealing a man's true attitude towards a woman. The first and most eloquent sign is the gaze. Jung argued that the eyes are the mirror of the soul, and when a man experiences strong feelings, his gaze is transformed. This is not just a lustful look, although it may be present. It is a look of deep recognition, as if he sees not only the appearance, but the very essence of the woman. Modern scientific research confirms Jung's conjectures. When we are near someone with whom we feel a deep connection, our pupils involuntarily dilate. This reflex, controlled by the autonomic nervous system, cannot be faked. Words can be deceptive, but the eyes will always reveal the truth. A man in love will maintain eye contact longer than usual, as if trying to imprint every feature of her face in his memory. Even in a noisy crowd, his gaze will seek her eyes, like a compass unerringly finding north. The most telling moment is when he looks at a woman, not suspecting that she has noticed. Perhaps she accidentally catches his eye when he thinks she can't see. He will watch how she interacts with others, how she smiles, how she moves. This is not a possessive gaze, but a gaze of admiration, as if every movement is a work of art that he cannot get enough of. Another striking sign of a man's true feelings is how he organizes his time and personal space. Carl Jung, a renowned psychologist, pointed out that when a deep emotional connection arises with a person, we subconsciously strive to include them in our lives, reshaping our usual way of life. A man experiencing genuine affection acts on it naturally, often without realizing how eloquently it speaks to his feelings. This manifests in making space for you in his life, not out of obligation, but from an internal desire to be near. He's willing to adjust his schedule, change plans, and reassess priorities to be there when you need support or simply to spend more time together. He doesn't disappear for days without explanation, doesn't make excuses about being too busy to respond to messages, and doesn't cancel plans at the last minute without a valid reason. Equally important is how he manages his physical space. Carl Jung noted that people with deep emotional connections tend to minimize physical distance. An emotionally engaged man is drawn into your personal space as if by a magnet. During conversations in a group, his body instinctively turns towards you, and his toes point in your direction. He finds subtle ways to get closer, doing so unobtrusively, as if an invisible force is drawing him to you. Also, pay attention to his reaction to your touch, even casual ones, a light touch on the arm or a friendly hug. These fleeting moments can reveal a lot. Neurobiological studies show that touch between two people with an emotional connection triggers a significantly greater release of oxytocin than touch between strangers. This chemical reaction occurs involuntarily and manifests in subtle signals: dilated pupils, a slight blush, changes in breathing, and an increase in body temperature. These are almost imperceptible details, but they reveal truths that are sometimes impossible to express in words. The third, and perhaps most convincing, sign of a man's interest lies in the phenomenon of selective memory. As Carl Jung established, our subconscious continuously filters incoming information, selecting only the details that seem important. A man with strong feelings demonstrates an almost phenomenal memory for details related to the object of his affection. He remembers things that others would overlook or quickly forget. He easily recalls conversations from weeks ago, remembers fleeting mentions of preferences, and notices changes in appearance, whether it's a new hairstyle or an updated wardrobe. It's important to note that this isn't the result of conscious memorization efforts, but rather an automatic brain response caused by you becoming a priority in his information processing system. This is especially evident when he remembers details that you yourself have forgotten. Perhaps it's a dream you shared, a hidden fear, or a fleeting childhood memory. In these moments, he's not trying to impress you. He's simply demonstrating that this information is firmly embedded in his mind, occupying a special place there. The fourth telling sign is emotional openness. Carl Jung believed that true intimacy between people flourishes only when both discard their masks and present their true selves to each other. Society instills in men from a young age the notion of hiding their feelings, demonstrating unwavering strength and resilience. When a man decides to share his innermost feelings, fears, ambitions, and failures, he's taking a step beyond the ordinary. He's dropping the armor that protects him from the outside world. This vulnerability doesn't always manifest in dramatic emotional outbursts. It can appear in subtle moments when he shares anxieties related to work, reveals a dream he's never confided in others, or allows you to glimpse into corners of his soul usually hidden from view. It's as if he's saying without words, "I trust you so much that I'm willing to show you the real me." The fifth sign lies in how a man weaves you into the fabric of his life. Jung noted that we endow those with whom we feel a deep connection with a part of our personality. A truly interested man seeks to make you an integral part of all aspects of his existence, not just moments of intimacy in private. He introduces you to his closest friends, introduces you to his family, and invites you to significant celebrations, family traditions, and gatherings with loved ones. He doesn't hide the fact of your existence from those who are important to him. On the contrary, he speaks of you with almost tangible pride, as if your presence in his life is a valuable achievement he wants to share with the world. The The sixth and highly telling indicator is how a man projects a shared future. Carl Jung, the eminent Swiss psychiatrist, emphasized that our sense of time is inextricably linked to emotional involvement. When a man feels a deep affection, he involuntarily begins to imagine a future where you play an important role. Even in the early stages of a relationship, he may make long-term plans, organically including you in them. He might casually talk about upcoming trips or events that will happen in a few months, as if it's a given that you'll be together. This doesn't come across as pressure or imposition, but rather as a natural inclusion, as if the thought of a separate future simply doesn't occur to him. It's especially telling when a man shares his life plans, ambitions, and dreams, and it becomes clear that he's already reserved a place for you in that picture. He might mention what the ideal home for the two of you could be like, or how he'd like to, one day, show you the places where he grew up. It's important to understand that these aren't empty promises or attempts at manipulation, but sincere hints that he sees you as an integral part of his life's journey. The seventh defining sign, highlighted by Carl Jung as one of the most powerful in male psychology, is the instinct to protect, manifested not in a desire for control or possessiveness, but in a genuine concern for the physical and emotional well-being of a loved one. This behavior, deeply rooted in the male subconscious, often manifests in surprisingly subtle and unobtrusive ways. When a woman faces difficulties, a man driven by this instinct shows genuine care, offering help not to demonstrate his merits or seek praise, but because he genuinely cannot remain indifferent to her suffering. He closely monitors the slightest changes in her mood, noticing when something is wrong even before she mentions it herself. A man, guided by the instinct to protect, anticipates the needs of his chosen one, not out of a sense of duty, but because her well-being becomes an integral part of his value system, a priority that determines his actions and decisions. Jung explained that such protective behavior originates from what he called the guardian complex, a deep psychic structure that activates when a man meets someone he considers truly valuable and irreplaceable. This isn't a conscious decision or a planned strategy, but an automatic reaction of the subconscious, arising when a man recognizes in a woman the one who awakens in him the deepest instinct of care, protection, and patronage. The eighth, and perhaps the most convincing indicator of sincere affection, is consistency over time. As Jung astutely observed, it's quite possible to briefly imitate almost any behavior, but a person's true essence inevitably manifests over a long period. A man can portray interest, attention, and care for several weeks or even months, but if a genuine emotional connection is absent, sooner or later the mask of hypocrisy will be dropped. A man who is genuinely in love demonstrates a consistently high level of energy, interest, and attention. He doesn't exhibit the typical cycles of closeness and distance so characteristic of superficial relationships. He doesn't show a sudden burst of interest for 2 weeks and then disappear without a trace for several days, without bothering to explain himself. His behavior is characterized by consistency, reliability, and predictability, but this isn't a sign of monotony, but rather evidence of his authenticity and sincerity. Now that the signs of a man's true involvement, based on Carl Jung's profound research, have become known, it's time to realize their significance directly for your life. This knowledge isn't purely theoretical. It has the potential to radically change your approach to building relationships, choosing a partner, and interpreting male behavior in general. If there's a man in your life who consistently demonstrates these 8 signs, you should understand that this phenomenon is extremely rare. Many people live their entire lives without experiencing such a deep connection. What you have is more than just physical attraction or superficial compatibility. It's a resonance at the soul level, which Jung would characterize as a meeting of unconscious minds. However, if the relationship lacks the aforementioned signs or their inconsistent manifestation, this is a cause for serious reflection. It's not about immediately ending the relationship, but rather about recognizing the fundamental difference between a fleeting infatuation and a genuine emotional connection. Often women spend a significant part of their lives waiting for a man who only feels superficial affection to develop a deeper attachment. As Jung argued, true love doesn't require coercion, it arises spontaneously as a result of genuine unconscious compatibility. When a partner exhibits only some of the indicated signs, the question of what to do next naturally arises. Jung believed that true love is an all-encompassing feeling that influences all aspects of human behavior. However, each person expresses their emotions in their own way. The key factors here are the consistency of the displays of affection over time and their sincerity. One genuine gesture is worth far more than many meaningless words or contrived actions. Everyone has probably been in a situation where their intuition suggested one course of action in a relationship, while their partner's words indicated another. How often have people been deceived by beautiful promises that were not followed by any real action? The knowledge gained today will help to avoid such situations and not be misled by empty words or unfulfilled hopes for a partner's emotional involvement. The truth, revealed by Jung and offered for consideration, is that a man who has sincere feelings does not need to be persuaded to be there, to show reliability or care. He does so naturally under the influence of powerful unconscious forces that surpass his rational will. If there is a need to beg for attention, set rules and ultimatums, or constantly doubt his feelings, this is a clear sign of a lack of deep emotional connection. However, possessing this knowledge implies a certain responsibility. If such signs are discovered in a man, it is necessary to react with corresponding sincerity. Jung believed that true relationships are an interaction between two people who fully open themselves to each other. If a man shows genuine vulnerability, openness, and devotion, and the partner, in turn, erects emotional barriers out of fear or past failures, this valuable connection may be lost. Realizing the true meaning of male signs of attention grants extraordinary freedom. From now on, there is no room for doubt in the correctness of interpreting his feelings. There is no need to rely solely on words and promises. Instead, there is an unwavering confidence in the ability to distinguish fleeting interest from genuine love. This understanding, once and for all, banishes power games and manipulations from relationships. When a man's sincere interest is visible, there is no need to check feelings, provoke jealousy, or use dubious tactics to maintain his attention. A woman can remain herself, knowing that the connection is real and does not need artificial tricks and strategies to preserve it. Moreover, this knowledge becomes a reliable protection for the heart. One can only imagine how many disappointments and emotional wounds could have been avoided if every woman had been able to recognize these signs from the very beginning. How much time and emotional energy is wasted on relationships that lack the potential for a deep and lasting connection? Carl Jung argued that finding a genuine connection with another person is one of the most transformative experiences in life. It is not just about romance or communication, but also about personal growth, spiritual evolution, and the realization of one's highest potential. When a man demonstrates certain signs, he is not just expressing his love, he is offering an opportunity to embark on a joint journey of self-discovery and mutual transformation.